He didn't look like someone who needed saving. Not at first. The rain hammered the alley behind Red Dragon Noodle House, spilling into the kitchen door where the cheap neon flickered. It was closing time, and Naomi Black, the quiet server everyone dismissed, wiped down tables while listening to her manager yell about tips she never seemed to keep. Then the door banged open. A Korean man stumbled in, suit drenched in rain and blood, dropping to one knee before anyone could ask a question. People screamed. Naomi didn't. She froze, but her eyes locked on him. His breathing, his stance, the way he tried to hide pain rather than beg for help. He wasn't scared. He was calculating. Before she could approach, 5 men pushed through the entrance wearing hoods and shiny knives. They didn't look at anyone else. They wanted him. Customers ducked. Staff ran. Naomi stayed still. One of the attackers swung a metal baton at the injured man. The impact cracked against his ribs. He choked on blood, falling against the table. The attackers kicked him like he was trash on their shoe. Naomi didn't understand why her body was moving. She just realized her hand was already gripping a tray, stand like a weapon. The first man didn't even see her. She struck him across the throat, collapsing his air instantly. He fell before she could regret it. The second lunged at her with a knife. Her wrist twisted around his like she'd done it yesterday, not years ago. A snap echoed. He screamed. She disarmed him, blade clattering to the floor, and she stared at her own hands like she didn't recognize them. "Stop moving," she whispered to herself, voice shaking. But her body refused. 3 more swarmed the bleeding Korean man, trying to finish him. Naomi slid into them like water, fists landing where bones were weakest, elbows crashing into pressure points her muscles remembered against her will. She swept one into a pile of chairs. She rammed another into the wall so hard, he gasped for air. The last attacker swung wildly. She ducked low, grabbed the metal chopstick holder, and slammed it into his jaw. He dropped instantly. 15 seconds. Just 15 seconds, and 5 armed men lay unconscious or groaning on the rain-slicked floor. Naomi stood over them, chest heaving, knuckles split, blood dripping down her arm. The Korean man she'd just saved stared up at her with shock, and something else. Recognition. Not gratitude. Not fear. Recognition. Only someone who knew violence could look at her like that. Naomi stepped back, horrified. I didn't mean to." "You did," he interrupted, voice ragged. Very clean. Very efficient. His accent sharpened every word, low and intentional. She didn't know if he was complimenting her or dissecting her. Her manager finally emerged from hiding behind the counter, screaming, "Naomi, what have you done? You could have killed someone. Are you insane?" Naomi shook her head, panic rising. "I didn't. I wasn't trying to. Police will come," the Korean man whispered, wincing as he pushed himself upright. "Do you really want them to know what you just did?" Something in his tone froze her pulse. It wasn't a threat. It was awareness. He was telling her he knew she couldn't afford being seen like this. "You all saw it," her manager yelled to the staff peeking from the kitchen. "She attacked them first. She assaulted them. Naomi, you're fired. I'm calling the cops right." The Korean man grabbed the manager's wrist with surprising speed despite his injuries. His voice cut like a blade. "No, you're not." The manager swallowed nervously, but pretended to be brave. "Let go. You don't control what happens here." The man looked him dead in the eye. "Don't I?" The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It was the heavy, choking kind that made people realize they were prey without claws. The manager backed away, shaking. The Korean man released him slowly, then turned to Naomi again. "You shouldn't stay here," he said. "Someone like you doesn't belong hiding behind aprons." Naomi frowned. "Someone like me?" He studied her bloodied hands. "Someone trained." "I'm not," she whispered sharply. "You don't know me." "I don't need to know you," he replied. "Your body told me everything." She clenched her fists, trembling. "I've forgotten everything I learned. I don't do that anymore. I don't want to." He nodded, almost thoughtfully. "Then why did you?" She couldn't answer. All she could feel was old pain rising in her chest. Pain she buried under small tips, bad customers, and pretending she didn't exist. Pain that only surfaced when her past forced its way out through violence. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Naomi's eyes widened. "I have to go. I didn't tell you to run," the man said, voice firmer now. She glared at him. "I don't need your permission." Something like approval flickered in his eyes. "Good. Then at least take my warning." They weren't here for me. Naomi froze. What? They came for you, he said. You were always the target. Her heart stopped. That's impossible. Nobody knows who I am anymore, she whispered. He winced from his wounds, but smirked faintly, darkly. And yet, they found you. Before she could process it, he stumbled again, nearly collapsing. Instinct overrode fear. She caught him under the shoulders, supporting his weight. The heat of his blood soaked into her uniform. She hated how familiar that felt. What's your name? She muttered reluctantly. He met her eyes with a look that could burn through lies. Minjae, he said quietly. But to people who matter, I'm something else. Naomi shivered, not from cold, but from the truth she felt under his words. She had no idea this night wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. Naomi didn't mean to help him further. She didn't mean to take the stranger's weight across her shoulder or guide him out the side door into the soaked alley behind the restaurant. She kept telling herself she was only buying time before the police arrived. She wasn't protecting him. She was protecting herself. Minjae's breath came in tight, controlled gasps, like a man refusing to show pain even while bleeding out. Lean on the wall, Naomi muttered, lowering him against the wet bricks. He winced but obeyed. Rain washed his blood down to the gutter. He smirked through the pain, somehow still calm. You move like someone who used to kill for a living. Naomi clenched her jaw. I served table 6 extra soy sauce tonight. That's what I do for a living. And you lie, he whispered. She stepped back, suddenly feeling exposed. Her arms, still shaking from adrenaline, felt like they were vibrating with memories she'd buried. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. Instead, she stared him down. Whatever you think you saw, keep it to yourself. I didn't think, Minjae murmured. I recognized. His eyes were dark, razor-sharp even through exhaustion. Your strikes were disciplined, not chaotic. You targeted their breathing first, then stability, then mobility. You broke bones without wasting energy. You didn't hesitate. Only someone trained to disable, permanently, fights like that. Naomi glared, voice low but shaking. Quit analyzing me like I'm a case file. You don't know me. He studied her for another beat, then nodded slowly. Not yet. She swallowed. I'm not interested in being known. Not by you. Not by anyone. You don't get to choose that anymore. The words dug into her stomach like ice. Naomi backed away as if distance could undo what happened. No one's looking for me, she insisted. No one cares about me. I made sure of that. Minjae gave a weak laugh. Someone cared enough to send 5 hitmen to test you. I said stop. Her voice cracked, raw with fear she never allowed herself to feel. Stop talking like you know my life. I'm nobody now. I worked hard to be nobody. And you failed the moment you fought back. Thunder rolled overhead. Naomi dragged her fingers through her hair, pacing like the ground was burning. Every word he spoke threatened the fragile identity she'd built. A life of invisibility. A job where people yelled at her, threw money at her like crumbs, where she apologized for things she didn't do, because at least it kept her safe. Safe didn't exist anymore. Minjae's voice softened slightly. You don't want this life. I can see that. But maybe it wants you. Naomi whispered, I'm not like you. Yes, you are, he replied. The difference is I never pretended otherwise. She didn't realize she was crying until the rain smeared tears across her cheeks. Shame stung her more than fear. She hated that he made her feel exposed, like she was some file he could read through blood and bruises. She'd buried her past like a corpse. Now someone was digging it back up. Sirens grew louder, echoing between the narrow alley. Naomi jumped into action, already recalculating escape routes like she'd never stopped doing it. We need to move. They'll trace the attack. Cameras, witnesses. You're thinking like a professional again, Minjae said quietly. Shut up and stand, she snapped, yanking him to his feet. He fought to stay conscious as she dragged him along the alley, through puddles reflecting broken neon light. The sirens rolled closer. For someone who claimed she didn't want her past, she moved like her life depended on protecting it. They reached an abandoned car wash at the corner. Soap foam stains still decorated the windows like white ghosts. Naomi led him under the old metal awning where the shadows swallowed them. She ripped off her apron, pressing it against his wound. You're losing too much blood, she muttered. We need a hospital. No hospitals, he said instantly. She laughed bitterly. Of course. Mafia rules. He stared hard. You know enough to guess that? Her heart skipped. She'd exposed too much again. So she tilted her chin up and lied. Anyone with eyes could guess that. Min-jae nodded once, like he appreciated the lie even though he didn't believe it. There's a car pickup point 2 blocks from here. I can call for it. If you can't stay conscious, you're not calling anything, Naomi said. Give me the phone. No. Why not? Because you don't trust me. And I don't trust you. That answer made her pause. For a second, they were just two strangers in the rain, both trapped by the same truth. Neither one trusted their own instincts anymore. She sighed, frustrated. Fine. I'll carry you. Min-jae blinked. You'll what? I said I'll carry you. Don't make me repeat it. He actually let out a small, disbelieving laugh. You're strong enough to fight 5 men, but carrying one embarrasses you? She grabbed his arm, hauled him onto her back like he weighed nothing, and gritted out. Embarrassing is the fact that I don't know why I'm doing this. He rested his head briefly against her shoulder. His voice came quiet. Because you don't want to become who you used to be. And helping you prevents that? How? It means you still choose who to protect. Those words hit something deep inside her chest she didn't want to feel. She didn't answer. She just walked. Rain poured harder, soaking them both as Naomi moved through dark streets she knew too well. She'd once learned to escape through alleys just like these. Now she was learning she hadn't escaped anything. She reached a dark corner where the street lamps flickered. A black car rolled in, silent, tinted, predatory. Someone inside opened the door from the back without stepping out. Naomi stopped walking. I don't step into unknown cars anymore. Min-jae whispered, wise rule. I'll break it for you. What? He slid from her back into the waiting vehicle, barely conscious. Before the door closed, he locked eyes with her through the rain. You can walk away now, he said. But the people who found you once will find you again. Naomi stared at him, her breath shaking. Why are you warning me? His voice softened with something she couldn't name. Because I'm not your enemy. Not yet. The car door shut. The vehicle pulled away, disappearing into the rain like a shadow she couldn't outrun. Naomi stood there, soaked, shaking, and more exposed than if she were standing naked in the street. Her peaceful life was shattered, and someone out there knew enough to shatter it more. Naomi didn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, still wearing a blood-stained uniform, watching the night fade into a gray morning through her window blinds. Every sound outside made her flinch. Motorcycles, a car door, a neighbor's footsteps. She didn't feel paranoid. She felt discovered. Her phone buzzed at 6:11 a.m. Unknown number. She let it ring until it stopped. Then it rang again. She finally answered, voice hoarse. Who is this? Min-jae's voice slipped through the speaker like a shadow. Calm. Controlled. They were not hired to kill you. Naomi's stomach twisted. Don't call me. Don't involve me. Just disappear. You can't ask the ocean to disappear, he replied. It's always there. You simply look away from it. I don't need metaphors today, she whispered bitterly. I just need my life back. You never had a life. You had a cover, he said. Now it's compromised. Naomi inhaled sharply, tears burning her eyes. Why me? Why now? I walked away. I chose peace. I chose silence. And whoever sent those men disagrees with your choice. She felt her pulse hammer. Why would anyone care about what I used to be? I was nobody important. Min-jae didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice changed. Lower. Serious. Only powerful things are hunted for retirement. She closed her eyes, wanting to scream. Instead, she snapped. You're trying to recruit me. That's what this is. You think I owe you. No, he whispered. I think you're in danger and don't want to admit it. Naomi shook her head. You don't get to pretend you're rescuing me. You're a criminal. A killer. You orchestrate violence. I'm not part of that world anymore. You were, he replied. And you were better than anyone in it. She threw her phone onto the bed like it burned her fingers. 5 seconds later, it vibrated with a text. Look outside. Naomi froze. Slowly, she moved the blinds with trembling fingertips. A black car was parked across the street. Tinted. Quiet. Watching. Her heart fell. No. No, no, no. Her phone buzzed again. That's not me. Just 4 words, but they sucked the breath from her lungs. She grabbed her backpack, shoved in her passport, a few clothes, wallet, old sneakers. She had done this before, quiet disappearances with no destination. She didn't bother locking her door as she bolted down the stairs. Halfway down the street, a man in a baseball cap stepped out from behind the parked car. Naomi's instinct screamed. She spun and sprinted in the opposite direction, vaulting over trash bins, slipping through narrow walkways like she was born escaping. A hand grabbed her forearm. Naomi flipped the man over her shoulder before even seeing his face. He hit the pavement with a grunt. A second man came from the alley, reaching for her waist. She elbowed him, spine strike, knee, throat punch. He collapsed. 2 seconds. 2 attackers down. A familiar voice shouted from the corner. I told you to look before you run. Min Jae stepped into view, flanked by 2 men in dark coats. His men. And they weren't trying to fight her. They were chasing the same people she was. Min Jae approached, eyes burning with intensity. You still think this is about me recruiting you? Naomi backed away. Stay back. I don't trust you. Good, he said. Never trust anyone in this world. Not even me. But you still need help. She didn't answer. She watched the unconscious men on the ground, the car, the alleyways, calculating escape routes. If you run, Min Jae said quietly, they will find you again. Someone sold your location. Maybe someone from your past. Maybe someone who trained you. Maybe someone who wants you dead. Do you know who? I don't want to know, she muttered. I left everything behind. I left everyone. I paid for my silence. Min Jae stepped closer, lowering his voice. You cannot disappear from a world built on secrets. The only way out is to confront what you're running from. Naomi felt her legs weaken. You don't get to drag me back. I'm not dragging you, he replied. I'm giving you a chance to stop running. I don't need chances from you. He nodded. Then consider it a debt. You saved my life. Now I'm returning the favor. Naomi swallowed hard. What favor? Protection. She laughed coldly. Working with a mafia boss is protection? We are not working together, he said. You are staying alive because I am making sure you stay alive. That's all. And what do you get for keeping me alive? She challenged. Min Jae stared at her with unsettling honesty. Answers. About me? She whispered. No, he said. About who fears you enough to want you erased. She wished he were lying. She wished he were manipulating her. But the truth in his eyes was worse than any manipulation. Min Jae extended a hand. Not a handshake. An offer. A choice. Naomi stared at it, knowing if she touched him, even for a moment, her old life would vanish for good. No more ignorance. No more pretending. No more invisibility. She didn't take his hand. She simply whispered, You better not be lying to me. He gave a faint smirk. If I wanted to lie, I'd tell you you're safe. She felt the weight of that sentence more than anything else that night. Min Jae gestured toward the car. We move now, before the next group arrives. Naomi hesitated, then followed him, not because she trusted him, but because she feared who else might come. As the car door closed behind her, she understood one thing clearly. She wasn't being pulled back into violence. She was being hunted into it. The car accelerated through the city like it belonged to the night. Naomi sat in the back seat, hands clenched tight in her lap, feeling every heartbeat echo up to her ears. Across from her, Min Jae rested against the leather seat, his wound freshly bandaged. Even injured, he looked like someone who didn't fear consequences, like someone who created them. 2 of his men sat in the front, silent, focused, armed. Naomi stared at Min Jae's half-lidded eyes. You didn't call me for protection. You called me to pull me in. He opened his eyes fully, holding her gaze. I called so you wouldn't die alone in your bedroom tonight. You think that's pulling you in? She swallowed, jaw tight. The life I left behind, it doesn't exist anymore. Even if someone wanted to find me, they wouldn't know where to start. So how did they? He didn't hesitate. Only someone from where you were trained would know how you think, how you hide, how you disappear. Naomi felt nausea coil in her throat. Someone I knew, someone I trusted. Min Jae didn't answer. That silence was worse than confirmation. The car rounded a corner, slowing only when they crossed into the quiet business district. Neon signs shut down for dawn. The streets were empty, washed clean by rain, as though the city wanted to pretend nothing violent ever happened in it. They stopped at an underground parking lot. One of Min Jae's men opened Naomi's door. We're safe here, he said. Naomi didn't move. Safe doesn't exist for people like us. Min Jae stepped out despite the pain, steadying himself on the car door. He smirked faintly. And yet, here we are. Not dead. She reluctantly followed. Inside the lot, they walked through a metal door that led to a private elevator. As the doors closed, Naomi felt the walls closing with them. No escape routes. No exits without force. No witnesses. Only decisions she wasn't ready to make. The elevator opened into a minimalist room. Glass walls, dark furniture, quiet hum of expensive security. Not flashy. Functional. Like a place built out of necessity, not luxury. It wasn't power on display. It was secrecy. Naomi stood in the center, refusing to sit. Tell me everything. No games. No warnings. Just the truth. Min-jae lowered himself into a chair slowly, letting pain force honesty through gritted teeth. Someone sent those men not to kill you, but to measure you. They needed to see if you still remembered who you were, or if you became weak. Her fists clenched at her sides. And if I had become weak? If I had chosen to stay the nobody I want to be? They would have killed you anyway, he said softly. Weak assets are disposed of. Disappearing isn't allowed for certain people. Not without permission. Naomi felt her legs tremble, but she stayed standing. I wasn't an asset. I wasn't important. I didn't kill people. I protected people. Until you couldn't anymore, Min-jae cut in. Until you walked away. Her voice broke. I walked away because I couldn't live with what they wanted me to become. And yet, he said, you became it tonight anyway. Naomi stepped back like his words were physical blows. I saved you. I didn't kill anyone. I just stopped them. You disabled them, he corrected quietly. You broke bones without hesitation. You targeted their breath, then their weapons, then their movement. You didn't aim to win. You aimed to end. She gripped her head with shaking hands. Stop analyzing me. You don't know what I went through. You don't know what it took to bury that part of myself. Min-jae looked up at her, eyes steady. Then tell me. The words pinned her in place. No one had ever asked her to tell her story. No one ever cared why she vanished. They only cared when she was useful, when she was dangerous. She closed her eyes. The organization I trained under didn't protect people. They sold protection. They created fear just to be the heroes who stopped it. They used us like weapons for business deals. They treated lives like currency. Min-jae listened in silence. Naomi's voice cracked. I thought I was fighting for justice. I thought I was saving people. Until I realized they created the chaos just so we could clean it. So you ran? He said. I escaped, she corrected. No, Min-jae replied. You defected. The word hit like a bullet. Defector. Naomi felt the truth settle against her skin like a brand she could never remove. That's why they're hunting me. They don't care about you as a person. They care about what you know, he said. If your knowledge becomes someone else's asset, you become a threat to them. She stared at him, breath shallow. And what are you to them? A threat. He smiled without smiling. I don't exist to them. They pretend people like me aren't real. They don't acknowledge us unless we interfere with business. Which I don't. Until now, Naomi whispered. He didn't deny it. Now, I interfere. She felt heat behind her eyes, a mixture of fear, anger, and something she refused to name. So you're pulling me into your world to hurt them? No, he said calmly. You being alive hurts them. I'm just making sure you stay alive. Naomi looked away, voice barely audible. If I stay near you, they'll target you too. He shrugged. Let them try. She turned back, frustrated. Why? Why risk yourself for me? Min-jae's expression hardened. Because they should known you. No one should. For a second, she wasn't breathing. Not because she was scared, but because someone finally spoke the truth she'd spent years hoping to hear. You don't belong to them. You don't owe them your life. Naomi exhaled shakily. What now? Min-jae leaned forward slowly, eyes sharp with intent. Now, you stop burying who you are and start deciding who you'll be. He wasn't asking her to fight. He wasn't asking for loyalty or service. He was telling her to choose, before someone else chose for her again. For the first time since she ran years ago, Naomi wasn't scared of violence. She was scared of freedom. I don't want your world, she whispered. But I won't run anymore. Min-jae nodded once. Then we are in agreement. We don't work together. We survive beside each other. Until we know who's hunting you and why. Naomi slowly took a seat across from him. Then let's start with one question. Min-jae raised an eyebrow. Ask. She looked him directly in the eyes. What did they train me to be afraid of? The silence that followed was brutal. Heavy. Necessary. Min-jae answered without hesitation. Yourself. Naomi wasn't sure if she was walking into war or freedom, but she knew one thing. She wasn't walking alone. If you want more powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment saying more, and like the video so YouTube shows you the next episode. Your interaction keeps the story alive.